lot of houses right before people kind of move in once they've determined they want to buy one, or sometimes before. And there are an array of things that could potentially go wrong in a house. When you must get the question a lot, and I know this because you just told me, but that, should I buy this house? And that's not really a question that you're not answering if they should buy the house. You're telling them maybe what is wrong with the house or what isn't working with the house. When you start finding multiple problems in a house, and your laundry list is pretty much every house has some sort of laundry list. What is the easiest way for you to help a buyer understand maybe the magnitude of what some of these problems are? And then the second part of that question is, with all of the do-it-yourselfers out there with HGTV, all the different people who think you can go in and fix up a house in 30 minutes, how do you help people maybe understand not only what the problems are, but how much work or effort it could take to replace or fix them?
Yeah. That is a great question. I get it all the time, even though I think I can hang on to it and break it down. I do answer the question, should I buy this house? Because I am there to serve that person, to give them information. When they ask me point blank, should I buy this house? I do not answer that directly. I respond given the information that I have at the point. I mean, if my inspection report is going to be a mile long, I will tell them, there's multitudes of issues here. Now, if you have the money, if you have the family, talking about do it yourself, maybe I shouldn't say that. If you have resources to get the work done, then it's all about expectations.
Your uncle in the basement.
Well,
for
as long as uncle can actually do the work, that's fine. But that's a different story. But it's about expectations. If they're expecting, if they're realistic about their expectations, that's what matters. And I do read between the lines. If I see folks showing up, I get the sense that they don't have two nickels to rub together. They're barely getting into this home by the skin of their teeth. And I'm coming up with $20,000 of repairs in the first 15 minutes. I will let them know that and say, are you guys ready for this? Because like I say, I don't know all the issues that they're dealing with and all the resources they have available to them if they want this house. I mean, it may be a great price, may be in the right neighborhood. Those things that, I can't answer those things because there's so many factors that I don't know about, except for what I see there at that day. And that's what I can certainly inform them of.
So when you start going through these problems, I mean, what are people asking you? I mean, you show them, pick a problem, and then what do you show them, and how do you take them through maybe the process?
The first question is, how much is it going to cost?
Right.
Yeah, you got a problem over here. Well, how much is it going to cost? Okay, and sometimes there's very simple answers. A panel replacement is X amount of dollars. A roof replacement based on your square footage is X amount of dollars. There's a lot of other issues that aren't so quantifiable. So, I give them a range. This could be this, and it could be that, depending on what's there.
Right.
But that is how I address folks when I am going through issues with them. Some of them ask, well, I can just go to Home Depot and get that part and do it myself, and maybe you can, maybe you can't. But that is actually the primary thing is how much it could cost.
Does it give you shivers? I just saw your
it
face,
does.
which most people can't see. And the whole Home Depot conversation pretty much just gave you shivers down your spine.
Here's the deal. I'm a consumer myself. I am all for do-it-yourself. I have to do things myself. I understand that, and I totally get it. As long as people, again, are realistic about what they can and can't do. And people can't do everything. I can't do everything. And so I understand my limitations of what I can and can't do. And as long as people know that, then that's fine. Because it's not going to go away. Home Depot's not going to go away. The big box stores, the HGTV generation of everybody learning how to do everything, in a TV program, it's just there, and it's the reality. And so, like I say, I am there to help them. I'm a consumer. I want to help them and give them information.
Now, what's interesting about inspectors, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you can tell somebody everything that's wrong with a house, but you cannot make any type of referral or do any of the work. Is that right?
Oh, yeah, that's definitely a conflict of interest. Especially, there are some folks out there that still carry a contractor's license or some type of a, HVAC or duct cleaning business or something like that. So, the cleanest, best way to operate is home inspection license only. And if people have asked for referrals, then I might be able to throw out some names of folks that I've seen their work in the past or can trust. But I do not, obviously, refer anything to folks that I have a financial.
They should do that with auto mechanics, right? I mean, kind of the same thing. You can't go to the auto mechanic and then say, what's wrong, and then they fix it. It's kind of the same thing because most people don't know how a car works.
That's right. It's you want to find a mechanic that you trust. I guess maybe that's a great analogy for the home inspection thing. You got to find somebody that you can trust because that's what it comes down to is if you trust them.
Well, and you're really asking them to help you make some pretty big decisions. When you mentioned a roof. You've mentioned we've gotten into like electrical panels and things of that nature. Is there a hierarchy of like, wow, this is a big project, and now all of a sudden like leaky roofs, right?
Right.
All of a sudden you can have water all over the place, and now you start peeling back the onion, and leaky roof isn't just a roof replacement; it's a lot more.
Yeah.
Other things maybe are a little bit more, what's on you see what you get, right? It's going to be on the surface.
Yeah.
How do you help people maybe understand how complex a problem can be if it's not just these surface level deals?
Yeah, I do address that actually by telling folks the reality is houses are not rocket science. There's wood, paneling, framing, drywall. It's very simple stuff. Obviously, you can't see what you can't see. When you open something up, will there be surprises? And I tell people, yeah, there will be surprises. So I guess it comes back to managing that expectation. You're not going to have a $5,000 problem turn into a $50,000 problem. I guess you could. The percentages of that happening are so low, in my experience. I don't think that's an issue. For the most part, I mean, if we can see most things on the house except inside the walls, and exception of a sewer line, we can't see sewer lines, and those are potentially big problems. But even now, there's very cost-effective ways to address that. Video scope inspections for a couple $100, $300-400, and
Yeah.
And that's a very, very worthwhile cause to
well,
get that.
you going back to kind of this HGTV generation, a lot of times, I don't forget the show, Holmes, Mike Holmes, right?
Right.
I'm sure it's your buddy.
Yep.
And they're always, we got to open up this wall. We have to do,
Yep.
we really do have to peek behind the curtain to see what's really going on. Is that something you end up doing very often?
No, absolutely not. In fact, we all hated Mike. I hated Mike Holmes at first. I've come to really enjoy him, although I don't watch a lot of TV, and I don't know if he's even still on anymore. However, he's out there. People know who he is. People have seen his shows. And obviously what he did on his home inspection show is not realistic at all. We're not allowed to do any destructive investigation, tear things apart. And it's TV. They have to make it interesting.
Sure.
If you filmed a home inspection, it would be boring. It's not good TV. So they've got to make it exciting. But it does point out what the thing you were talking about. What should you expect? Well, Mike, if you send Mike Holmes in there, he's going to find it all. But it is not realistic to rip out everything and put it all back together again, because there's a budget for that show, but it's a very large budget, and people get to do things with that budget.
Well, and that's what it seems like is people probably are like, well, why didn't you find everything?
Well, right.
And, I'm just going back to that show. They're literally taking sledgehammers to walls and ripping up all the carpet. I mean, it's almost more of a remodeling show than it is an inspection show.
Right. And I think for the most part, my experience is the home buying public is pretty savvy. They know, 10 years ago, I would get the question, can you find everything inside the walls? Now, I never get that question. I never get challenged to do a Mike Holmes inspection. People understand for the most part, even the first-time home buyers. And so that's really not something I have to contend with a lot. Mm-hmm. And I think people are pretty smart, and they know that not absolutely everything's going to be able to be found in a one-time home inspection.
Right.
So.
Well, speaking of finding everything, you guys end up down in the crawl spaces, and a lot of times there's pests, rats, whatever they may be. And that probably freaks people out more than really what it should.
Yes.
Is that fair?
Absolutely fair. Another great question people ask me is, what's the most important thing? What needs to get fixed on this house first? And really, I used to try and answer that, but now I don't, because if I do find rodents in a crawl space, sometimes she is freaked out and will not even walk near the house, regardless of the condition of the roof, regardless of the rot issues, regardless of anything else. If there's a rodent problem, that is all of a sudden more important than a $10,000 structural problem or a $10,000 roof problem. So what's important? What's the most important thing? I really think that the folks have to decide that, given the information that I give them.
Yeah.
Because I can't answer that anymore. I tried to, and I just kept going in circles.
Well, it makes a lot of sense. Some people freak out about rats. Some people freak out about water intrusion.
And electricity. Yeah, electricity. Yep.
Culmination of all three. I mean, a fire burning house with rats running out on flames. I mean, that'd be scary.
I haven't seen that.
No?
Yet. No.
That's good.
Remember, home inspections are pretty
that would
boring.
be weird.
Home inspections are pretty boring. So I would love to see the day when that would happen, because maybe we could film that and turn it into something.
I think flaming rats running out of a house that's covered in water could be very interesting.